Go ahead.
Fantasy frenzy time, ladies and gentlemen. It's me and my friend Jimmie Maverick on the other end. And so I guess we're at the halfway point of the NFL season. So obviously we're past the halfway point for the fantasy season, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, most games go through week 16. So we are actually at the halfway point, 8 games to go, including the playoffs. But you're right. It is we're closing down in on the regular fantasy season, which usually ends around week 13, week 14, depending on your league.
Let me tell you something, man. It's not unusual to get hit by the injury bug with your fantasy football team, and then when buys start kicking in, it's a unique set of circumstances. But I'm going to read to you one of the rosters of one of my teams right now. Listen to this. This is nothing like how it looked when I started the year, by the way, okay? I've had to do a bunch of
trading, you've been picking up off the waiver wire and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, though. So listen, so not one of these guys is this, except the Bills defense, is the starting guy that I had week 1. I now have Matt Stafford at quarterback, Phillip Lindsay and Miles Sanders at running back, Adam Thielen at receiver, Robbie Anderson and Danny Amendola at receiver, Jack Doyle at tight end. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you go over to my other team, which has been bitten badly by the injury bug. And now that's a little better. I got Russell Wilson, Nick Chubb, and Adam Thielen. But after that, Kenny Golladay, DK Metcalf, Kyle Rudolph, Sony Michel. Now, these are nothing like what I drafted on draft day. I mean, every week I'm having to raid the waiver wire because I finally get over some injuries, and then all of a sudden it's a bye week with somebody, you know?
Yeah, I know. And it's tough, man. This week we got 4 teams on bye, and they're 4 big fantasy teams, the Falcons, the Rams, the Saints, and so 3, and the Bengals. Not so much a huge fantasy team, but yeah, there's some holes that people need to fill. I always like to check the transactions on Wednesday morning on each of my leagues, and I found today someone dropped Will Lutz because of the bye week.
Really?
And so I'm like, well, guess who's going to be like a top priority for me to pick up before Sunday? I just have to figure out who I'm going to drop off my bench in order to make room for him, because I want Will Lutz the rest of the way as opposed to who I currently have.
Yeah, that's a good pickup. I actually had a need for a tight end because Everett, who I just got, is now going on a bye this week. I had no choice when I looked at my roster. I said, man, somebody's got to go. And there was Brandon Cooks on a bye. And I said, that guy hasn't done a damn thing for me this year. Now I'm going to have to go find a receiver again next year. But I went ahead and blew Brandon Cooks out this week. I sent him to waivers, man.
Yeah, he's got a concussion too. So who knows if he'll even be back next week. And he has been such a disappointment, man. It's the Super Bowl letdown, man. All teams suffer from it except for like the Patriots for the most part.
Yeah.
But I got to say, man, I'm going next season. I'm not going to draft any player that appears in the Super Bowl just because of this stuff that's happening. Woods has been a disappointment. Goff has been up and down.
Well, at least Cooper Kupp's been pulling it off. He's been all right.
Yeah, but Cooper Kupp didn't play in the Super Bowl last year.
That's true. He didn't.
Right? Uh-huh. He didn't play. And you're right. He's been like annihilating it. He's been amazing. But even when you look at the Patriots side, sure, Edelman's been good and Brady's been good. Sony's had his moments, but who else? There hasn't really been anyone else on that team that's been startable, on a week-to-week basis. So my whole thing is, man, just stay away from those Super Bowl teams when you're in your draft. You're going to do much better by just keeping them off your team.
Yeah, the one thing that makes me feel weird about being a devoted fantasy player is I get tired of watching the Rams play or the Vikings play, and I'm yelling at my TV at Kirk Cousins, hey, quit throwing it to Diggs all the time. You got Thielen too. Or yelling at Jared Goff, hey, how about a toss to Cooks every once in a while besides a reverse, for God's sakes? Cooper Kupp's not your only guy,
Man, you can tie yourself into knots, especially if, like, say you're playing someone who has Diggs and you've got Thielen.
It happens all the time, man. It happens all the time.
Don't throw the touchdown to Diggs. Don't do it,
Yeah. You know what, man? I'm looking at the waivers this morning. I get on the waiver wire and was looking for some players to pick up because I'm going to need a running back. Now, I was able to get Miles Sanders at the last minute because David Johnson is obviously – they say he's going to be out again. Now, Johnson went out. I was lucky enough to get Chase Edmonds the very next week. after he had the big week. And I thought, what the hell? But now he's hurt too.
Yeah.
So, Kenyon Drake is suddenly their guy. So I wonder if he's going to be worth anything.
It's a horrible matchup this week. So I would stay away if you can. But if you need to slot someone, I think Drake is the one that you want to play this week. I don't think David Johnson's going to play, and Chase Edmonds is pretty much out at this point. So I'd start Drake, and he should have some value. He will, he's a pass catcher, so he can catch some passes, get some production that way. But boy, San Francisco, man, that defense is hardcore. They just annihilated Carolina last week. I was not expecting that blowout.
No, me neither. And plus, it is a Thursday night game. So anybody who was on that roster who maybe was questionable right now, they're probably not going to play him because it's a short week. So there's that. Right. Now, I can tell you right now, if you're ever on the fence about getting somebody off the waiver wire and wondering if they'll pan out for you, check with me first, okay? Rob at 94rock.com. If I have drafted them at any point this year, it's a certainty they're going to get hurt. So don't touch them, right? I'm just saying. Because I'm the kiss of death, I swear to God.
Yeah, it seems to happen that way. I haven't been too bad with injuries this year, except for David. David Johnson has really hurt me bad because I have him in 3 of my leagues. And the 2 of my leagues that are in the most trouble right now are David Johnson teams. So,
Kamara's he's been banged up now too. And he was the guy that I was so excited to get on one team. I got Alvin Kamara. He really has not been that good this year. Now he's been banged up.
Yeah, but I think he'll be fine going down the stretch. Man, the Saints are good. I am just I am totally impressed with that team. They got Drew Brees back now, so once Alvin Kamara comes back, it's going to be great.
Although if you were lucky enough to get Latavius Murray in his absence, he did all right.
Right, he sure did. He sure did. Yeah. So where are your teams sitting right now? Where are they ranked at, and what's your record?
That's a good question. I'm 5-3 in one.
Okay.
And then I'm 4-4 in the other.
Oh, that's great. You're in great position then. So you'll probably be able to make the playoffs in both those teams. Yeah, I'm running 6 leagues. I've got 3 tournament leagues where I currently have 2 teams at 5-3, ranked number 4, which puts me in playoff position, which is exactly what I want. I want to be in the playoffs. And then I got my 3-5 team, which is the team that's in the most trouble. It's the team I drafted David Johnson and Zach Ertz first and second. Yep. And this team is hurt, and they're 3-5, ranked number 9. They are probably out of it at this point. There's only 3 weeks to go with the tournament regular season before they go to the tournament playoffs in week 12. So I don't think there's much I can do with those guys to get that team into playoff position. But the other 2 are in great shape. So I'm really excited about that.
Sweet.
And then in my money leagues, I've got 1 team at 6-2, ranked number 2. 1 team at 5-3, which is ranked number 4, and 1 team at 3-5, which is ranked number 9. Surprisingly, all these guys are in playoff position, including my one ranked number 9, because in that league, the top 8 teams go to the playoffs, 8 out of 12.
Oh, nice.
So I only need to be at 8th or better, but it definitely is a must-win this weekend. I got to pull off a win, and unfortunately, I'm an underdog in that 3-5 team, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Now before we get to our start and sit segment right now, the problem with that is this year is if you've got the luxury of having a bench that's deep enough to where you've got a guy that normally performs, but maybe this isn't the week to start him. Maybe you sit him this week because you got a viable alternative on the bench. But it's been my experience with all the injuries, you're forced to start guys that you probably would have sat had you had a better bench. But now you're kind of stuck with all the injuries and going with who you got. Starter sit, be damned,
Hey, you know what? This start sit list, the past couple of weeks, I've had guys that I've said, sit this guy, and I've had to start him because I just didn't have any viable alternative to put in this place. And
that's the problem.
Especially in some of my running back slots, man, I got to take what I can get because it is tough right now with David Johnson. So, that's where I'm at. And, But just keep fighting, man. Sometimes you got to play it, and sometimes it works out. Last week I said that Christian McCaffrey was a sit, and of course the Panthers got blown out. But geez, he still had a great fantasy day. He still got like 20 fantasy points. I was totally amazed.
Yeah, if I had Christian McCaffrey, man, the only way I'm not starting McCaffrey, I don't care who they're playing, is if he's got a bye. because he's a sure thing anymore.
Yeah, if you have him, you got to play him, and I understand that, but it's like if I'm saying sit, it also means that this guy, if you do start him, he's probably not going to do that great. But in last week's case with Christian McCaffrey, it did work out. So, that was good. But Nick Chubb, my other sit, again, he had a rough game. He didn't do that great. With his final points, I think he got 8 or 9 fantasy points.
That's what he got because I've got.
Yeah, and so I'm certain if you had Chubb, you didn't sit him, but that's kind of what you could expect. I traded for Odell Beckham last week, and he was a sit, and he got 7 points.
When does Kareem Hunt get reinstated, by the way? Because I'm wondering if Nick Chubb's value going forward is going to be a lot less with Hunt out there.
I'm not too worried about it. He didn't start at week 11, right? I think, is when his first game that he'll be able to play. And I see him as more of like a Duke Johnson plus player. Chubb's not going to lose that job. He's been the best thing about that offense. They're not going to bench him.
I agree.
So I'm not worried about him at all. And I, like I said, I think Kareem Hunt will be in on the passing downs. We'll take we'll take most of the passing work, I think. But that's going to be the extent of his role on that offense. So,
all right. So let's talk start sit right now. Let's start with quarterbacks. Give me your starts. Give me your sits.
All right. So you said you have him, and it's going to be a great week for him. Matthew Stafford, who has been lighting it up, man. 7 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks, and now he gets to play Oakland. I think it's and Oakland has given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks this season. So he is going to be great. Absolutely start him if you got him on your roster. I also really like Jimmie Garoppolo this week. For as good as the 49ers offense has been, it's been the run game that has been powering that offense. And but Garoppolo has not done much, but man, he gets Arizona this week. I think he's going to light it up, and he's going to get a lot of fantasy points. So I totally start him.
I'd be willing to bet you that Oakland's defense only gave up. They were like 5th or 6th worst in the league before last week, and then Aaron Rodgers came along and screwed their average all the way to last, probably.
Yeah, but I mean, they've been good to quarterbacks all season, and it's going to continue. Yeah. So, both Arizona and Oakland, the top 2 teams in the league for allowing points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks. So go with it, man. Go with it. Run with those guys. My sits are, man, this one's a tough one because this guy's on a couple of my leagues, but Lamar Jackson, man. Who does he get to play this week? New England Patriots. They are brutal. That defense is brutal deluxe. I'm not going to sit him, though. I'm still going to play him in my 2 leagues because my alternative is, I think, Jared Goff, and he's on bye, so I don't really have anything else.
Even so, I would still go with Jackson, man.
Yeah, yeah. And, he should get some rush yards and stuff, and so, I think he'll be okay, but don't expect like one of those 30-point performances. I don't think it's going to happen.
If Lamar Jackson blows up against the Patriots defense this week, he is a viable candidate for MVP this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, no doubt about it.
And he's been a great, what a great draft pick he was. He was one of my favorites. I was so excited to see what he could do, and he has exceeded all expectations.
No doubt about it.
Kudos to you guys, to whoever out there took Lamar Jackson, because he has been fantastic.
Yep.
My other sit is Carson Wentz, man. He's playing Chicago. And Chicago's pass defense is super stingy. They can be run on, but passing is not that great. So that's actually probably a good use for your Miles Sanders, who hopefully will have a big day this weekend. But Carson Wentz is not a guy I want to start.
Hey, newsflash as far as that game goes too, I would not start Eddie Pinheiro at kicker. I'm just saying, man. Who you got at running backs?
Okay, so let's move on to running backs. Okay, so my running back start, a guy who has really struggled this year, been a real disappointment to everyone who took him, but man, Le'Veon Bell is going to be the man this weekend. They're at Miami. Miami is what will cure you when you're ailing. And I think he's going to have a big day this weekend. And I've been trying to acquire Le'Veon Bell in like all of my leagues. I've had no luck. No one's given him up. But he's got a great
Bell was
stretch of
actually
games
on the
coming
trade
up, and I think he's going to be very productive.
reportedly, the Jets were actually listening to offers for Le'Veon Bell before the trade deadline this week, too.
Yeah, but who has the cap space to pay him his contract?
Exactly.
That's a non-starter from the beginning. But
no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate Adam Gase, man. He's the worst. And
he's not doing much for me.
I think if the Jets are smart, they're going to dump him off after this horrendous performance, after his horrendous performance in Miami. I mean, come on. The guy is not a good head coach.
Nope.
And they need to get someone in there who isn't in the AFC East. I don't know what the deal is with that whole incestuous relationship where these coaches just move between the crappy teams in the NFC East to help the Patriots, right?
Yep, no doubt, no doubt.
But my other start, Devin Singletary, man, versus Washington. He came back from injury last week. Wasn't real involved in the running game, but he was heavily involved in the passing game, which is something that Carlos Hyde doesn't deal with at all. But I see, they're playing Washington. I see more carries are going to go to him. He's going to become a bigger part of that offense, and the passing work is going to be really nice, probably 6 targets. And so I think he's going to be a great start this week. So start Devin Singletary.
All right. And then your sits?
Well, we've got LaShawn McCoy of the Kansas City Chiefs, who's going to be playing against Minnesota, who is really tough against the run. And, of course, Mahomes isn't back either yet. So I do not like LaShawn McCoy. But, unfortunately, he's on one of my teams, and I need to start him.
Yeah, I got it. That's where it is this year.
Yeah, and then David Montgomery, who finally did something last week, who finally the coach, finally gave him a substantial workload, and he produced with it. But now he gets to face Philadelphia, who has a really tough rush defense, and it's on the road. And so if you can sit him, I would sit him this week.
Although I got to tell you, Ezekiel Elliott
back to normal for him.
I thought Ezekiel Elliott blew up against Philly a couple weeks ago, and they don't have a lot of film on Montgomery. Maybe he has a sneaky good week.
Maybe he could. And if Chicago commits to the run game, which they need to because Trubisky is just terrible,
right.
They need to commit to that running game and give him like 20-plus touches a game. He'll be fine. But, they've been so all over the place with his usage.
Yeah,
I mean, going from 2 touches 2 weeks ago to what did he get, 27 touches last week?
Yep.
I mean, that's crazy. That's like the worst thing in the world for fantasy production.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, again, sit him if you can. That's what I'm saying. So
receivers, talk to me about receivers.
Okay, receivers. Well, your team, man, the Dallas Cowboys receivers, man, they are going to blow up this week, playing the New York Giants, who have been one of the best teams to play against the pass. So Gallup, Cooper, I think even who? Why am I drawing a blank?
You talking about Randall Cobb?
Yeah, Cobb. Even Cobb, I think, might have some flex value here.
I think you're right.
But I think it's going to be a great week for Dallas. So all the Dallas players I'm up on for this week. I also really like Terrell Williams, who came back from injury and again got a touchdown. He's gotten a touchdown in every game he's played in this year. He's playing Detroit this week, and I expect that streak to continue. So I expect another touchdown from Terrell, and he should be a good choice for your team.
Yeah, all right. He's actually been a pretty good story this year, too, I got to say. Who do you like for tight ends, too, by the way? Because tight end, that position has been a thorn in my side all year long due to injuries, due to guys that really just aren't panning out.
It's been tough. Now, I have a couple more sits for I have a couple sits for wide receivers.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So my first sit is Odell Beckham, man. Another tough matchup, playing Denver at Denver. And Baker Mayfield just not getting it done, man. So expect a disappointing game from Odell Beckham.
Okay.
And also all the Carolina receivers, man, I'm just going to stay away from all of them. They're playing Tennessee, and Tennessee's pass defense has been solid. Both DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel have kind of been up and down this year, but they really need Cam Newton back to really perform, and that's not going to happen. So I would stay away from all the Carolina receivers this week.
Oh, man, I think Kyle Allen's actually better for him than Cam Newton is at this point in Newton's career.
Well, I think he's been playing better than Cam Newton has when Cam Newton was injured. And I like the fact that even though they had a terrible game last week, they're sticking with Kyle Allen, which means they're not going to rush Cam Newton back. I'm fine with that. That's great. So, but anyway, like I said, I just don't like the matchup this week. It's a tough matchup, and I'd stay away from those guys if you can.
All right. Now we were talking tight end, and
Okay.
tight end is, like I said, thorn in my side all year long. Now I see names on the waiver wire. Kyle Rudolph. Well, okay, his best years are probably behind him, but who knows? Nothing. Trey Burton. Nothing. Njoku gets hurt. Everybody, I've had like 3 different tight ends, so I'm on Jack Doyle now, and
Right.
I don't even know how that one's going to go. So, man, tight end's a tough one.
It is tough, man, and hopefully you were some of our listeners picked up Jonnu Smith last week, and that guy really came through. Tennessee Titans with Delaney Walker being out, he got like 7 targets. He was fantastic, and I don't think Delaney Walker's going to be back again this week.
He's not going to be, and I actually had Jonnu sitting there on waivers, and I passed over him for Jack Doyle.
Oh, boy.
Because I'm wondering, is that guy going to have another week like that, you know?
Yeah. I actually picked him up because I had Mark Andrews on 2 of my weeks last week. Yeah. And, wow, did he come through great.
Yeah,
He's a big reason why I won 2 of my games. So, cool. But I think he's gonna ball out again this week. You know, Tannehill really has a nice connection with him. So, absolutely, Jonnu Smith. And then also, you know, I was just talking about the Carolina receivers. I usually stay away from him, but I think Greg Olsen is a great choice there. That Tennessee defense is not as good against tight ends, and so I think Greg Olsen's going to have a big day. He's the safety valve, and I think he's going to be a good choice. So that might be a guy that you should target instead of Doyle.
Who are you going to sit?
My sits are, Zach Ertz. I don't know what's going on. I mean, he is just faded just into irrelevance. It's just shocking to see how poorly he's played, especially for how early a draft pick you had to take to get him, which is usually like a 3rd-round pick. So again, the rise of Dallas Goedert might be a good one too. Also, if to pick up a tight end, because he appears to be the one that's getting targeted in the red zone. So
they do like him a lot this year. They do, for sure.
So anyway, Goddard might be a good one to pick up off of waivers if you're looking for a desperation tight end play. But also, here's another one who, if you have him, you're not going to sit him. But Travis Kelce, man, against Minnesota, it's going to be a rough day. No Mahomes, and I see a not great game out of him either. So if you can, I would recommend sitting these guys, but I don't think anybody's going to sit Kelce.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, why in the heck would you want to do that unless there's a bye, right?
Right. So that's where we're at. So hopefully, good luck with finding yourself a good tight end.
Well, guess what I'm doing right now?
What are you doing?
See my app? Watch this. Add Jonnu Smith. Hold, please. I have to drop somebody. I'm going to drop Jack Doyle.
That sounds good.
Okay, hold on. Oops. Close. So I'm good. Save. Confirm. Hold, please. Okay, now I have to mess with my lineup. Edit lineup. And I am going to move Jonnu Smith into the starting tight end spot. Boom. Let's see if that pans out. I just did it while we were talking.
All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, good luck with that. I think he's going to be really good this week. So
I didn't like that Jack Doyle pickup. I wasn't crazy about it, and I need some points out of my tight end bet.
The one thing you got to really focus on, man, is any tight end that shares time with another tight end, just don't even deal with that situation.
Yeah, no, you're
man.
Right. You're right.
I mean, you're talking, the O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, you got Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Any of these teams which have 2 viable tight ends, not worth it for fantasy. Just stay away from those guys.
Yeah.
And the only reason Jonnu Smith has value is because Delaney Walker is out. If Delaney Walker was healthy, neither one of them would be startable.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe, if he gets me through him, we're good enough, man.
Yeah.
So hey, so you want to pip the YouTube channel real quick, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so if the listeners out there want to look at our beautiful faces, talk about fantasy football, you can go to my YouTube page, which is just search for Jimmie Maverick. That's Jimmie, Jimmie Maverick, and you'll be able to watch our videos there as well. So this podcast also gets posted to that with video. So it's fun, and like I said, we're so good looking. You're going to enjoy the video.
Yeah, nice. Cool, man. Well, then good luck this week, and we'll hook it up again next week as we get 1 week closer to the playoffs.
Absolutely. Good luck this weekend. Good luck out there, everybody, and hope you survive the byemageddon with all of these teams on bye. And just remember, week 10 is even worse. 6 teams on bye next week. So maybe look at your lineups for week 10, see what holes you have, and maybe try to fill them now, because it's going to be easier to do it now than it's going to be to do it next week.
Yep,
so just a couple of hints for you there. So good luck, everybody.
All right, dude. Then we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one, Swami.
You too.